All right, let's turn the house lights up if we could, and we'll. I've learned over the years as a radio talk shows and someone that's been blessed to do many interviews over there, the best questions and topics always come from the audience. They're marvelous out there. So where's Linda? Linda's right here. So raise your hands, give a question, and Linda will come over to you and ask you a question. So Linda, if you would, there's mics in the audience here. There's a number of folks that have been featured in the book with a chance to ask questions. Is Mike over here too? Okay, sounds good. We'll go back and forth here. Go ahead to this gentleman right here. Can we turn his mic on this so we can hear him? Is there a switch on it? Yeah, there we go.
A little while back in your discourse, you said that the country is definitely changing. And it's good to hear a Democrat admit that the pivot strategy is working, because the country, I believe, is changing from being predominantly Caucasian American to a browner tint. What I want to know from you is, one, do you agree with that strategy? And two, if the population shifts to that effect, doesn't that prove the point of most capitalists, that the providers, the producers, are going to dwindle in the population, and the takers are going to become more? So it's going to tip. It's unsustainable.
Quickly, each of you.
In 1988, President Bush won the electorate was 85% white. In 2008, it was 74. I don't have to make it up. I'm just giving you what a statistic is. By the way, I think there are a lot of people, I think there are a lot of hard-working people in this country that contribute a lot that aren't Caucasians. I don't think necessarily have tons of hard-working people here. I don't think we ought to have a discussion here about that, because I'm certainly not going to have it. I think there are hard-working people all across this country, of every kind of ethnic group, every kind of racial group. So I don't know, but the fact is that the demographics of the United States are changing. That's not a political statement, that's not anything, that's just a factual statement.
Harry, you want to contribute to that?
Well, it was ever thus. The demographics of this country have been changing since it was born. When my parents lived in a place where no Irish didn't apply, okay? My mother's parents wouldn't even let my mother date my dad because he was Croatian. I mean, this is so weird. It's color, it's ethnicity, it's religion, it's all of that. And what history has shown us, it takes like a generation, and then there's an assimilation. I think the Obama types in particular, but liberalism in general, supports this notion that demographics is destiny, as if because the color of your skin or your religion or whatever, your demographic, young people, whatever, that you're a locked-in vote. That is just not true. And it's even in the, it's been true of cutting me off because you don't like what I'm saying. I think if there ever was a time where every demographic is looking to say what's the future, particularly young people, and let me just say this to you, we are the first generation who this country has always been about making it better. Our motivating, our compelling reason for living is to make it better for our kids. How much did our parents sacrifice for us? We're the first generation going to leave the worst country for you. We're counting on you to smack us around and say, this is not working, okay? And you are. In New Orleans, with Tulane had 46,000 applications for 1,500 spots. Our city is progressing because young people are moving down there in droves to help us, just like young people are going to be moving up here to be the innovators and the backbone of the industries that y'all have done. So I don't think that the larger notion that demographics is destiny had been true in previous cycles, but those are when cycles when wives voted like their husbands, and that went away a long time ago.
Tyler's over there with a mic too, so raise your hand if you have a question. And for Tyler on this side, raise your hand. And Linda, go ahead. Somebody ready to go with the question quickly if you can.
Yes. I would like both of you to comment on, for the sake of us that are gray-haired, both Social Security, the future of Social Security and Medicare, please.
Who's first?
Well, we both have gray hair. Mine's just hidden and his is shaved. Well, we know how to fix Social Security. It takes political will. Nobody that's on Social Security now or going to get on the next 10 years, nothing's going to change for you. But nothing's going to be there for you unless we do something about it now. This is a system that was put in place for orphans and widows when the original architects put they wanted to put it at 70, but they put the age at whatever it was, when life expectancy was 20 years below that. Well, that's not sustainable. And there were more workers per recipient. So we know what the answer is. We know how to save it, make it safe. If I was a young person today, and that's what I'm telling you, go ahead, sign up for it, but we're making our kids have their own savings accounts. Or I am, at least. I don't know.
I don't know what that. Most people should have their own savings account. Exactly. Social Security is not that difficult to fix. We've already added 2 years to retirement age. You can do some things there. You can do a couple of things. What is going to kill this country is by far, or none, is rising healthcare costs. Now, you can deal with Medicare by cutting Medicare, but it doesn't do anything about healthcare costs. This is a chart of healthcare costs as a percent of GDP of every country around the world. I do not have to tell you what country that spike represents. And the overlay here is life expectancy. So you can see that this spike is pretty far down that chart and pretty far higher than everybody else. It's become such a problem that, our government spends a greater percent of our GDP on health care than the Canadian government. Now understand the Canadian government is the provider of 98% of the health care in Canada. So unless the discussion is we're going to shift costs from the government to the people, you're not solving the problem. Now, actually, Medicare produces health care cheaper than private insurance does. So as the CBO says, if you do that, you're actually going to raise the overall cost. If you have a discussion about what we can do, if we drop health care costs in this country 4% of GDP, we wouldn't even have a budget deficit problem. But you've got to address the problem of cost, not cost shifting. Until you do that, you're not doing anything, and no one wants to deal with that. So what we do is we say, we're just going to cut what we pay providers, and we just cut what we pay this person, and let the individual pick it up, and that's going to just cause.
All right, question for you.
All right, so considering President Obama's recent accomplishments in foreign policy, specifically dealing with Osama bin Laden's capture, the block in Iraq, and our minimal involvement in Libya, how will this affect the GOP's message on Democrats being soft on foreign policy?
Karen, want to take that one?
Well, many conservatives lauded those accomplishments and didn't have to point out that it's obvious none of them would have occurred without having had the foundation of the policies in Bush put in place. So that's just reality of it. There's no way to have gotten UBL without the intelligence. But I supported I supported Libya, and I support to some extent the no doctrine. That's what it is. He calls it leading from behind. And the reason I do is because, having worked in foreign policy as long as I did in an unprecedented time, this is you think we're in transition? They don't have any idea what's going on. So one of the mistakes we made, and it was well-intentioned, we're going to support democracy. When you support democracy, you're going to have Hamas elected. Okay, so, or look what's going on in Egypt. So I support Obama's no doctrine for the moment. And honest conservatives saying we have to look at all of this stuff, which it's ridiculous to equate defense spending with welfare spending. Is completely different. But, and I think he has good generals. The thing that I disagree with has nothing to do with the larger, it's not me, who cares what I think, but the larger argument, soft on defense and all that. This is not the right thing to do it in the way that he did it in Iraq. We have now laid open an opportunity for Iran to become the hegemons of the region. It's too long to go into the whole thing, but that was wrong. He used it for political reasons. Everybody knows it. The generals said, no, we need at least 20,000, 30,000. We're all going to walk away. So everything that we put into it is in jeopardy now. And more scary is a nuclear-armed Iran, or building nuclear arms Iran. You think we have problems now. So we're going to have another one of these goofy conversations about something that requires more honesty from both sides. It is a very difficult region, and nobody's come up with the right answer. But to become interventionist, which a lot of conservatives want at this moment, is also the wrong answer.
Two more questions real quickly here. Linda has somebody next to you. I recognize Lee Biber is the gentleman. Oh, she's first. Okay, all right. Go ahead. This is a question from a student, I understand?
This is a question from one of our overflow sites.
Oh, great. Great idea. By the way, James and Mary, you're such a big draw. You should know there's overflow here. There's the monitors throughout the campus where folks are watching. So we're glad they got a question. Thank you.
One of the questions from the overflow sites was, would either of you ever run for president?
For president.
No, I wouldn't run for that. My past is not conducive to
Let's just say his past would make Herman Cain look like a priest at this time.
We have gone to a lot of places. We have a lot of these. I don't know how many college campuses we've been on together. And what you have here is truly remarkable. The students we've had with them today for a long time. We talk to people here. We vet people. And this is a remarkable culture that exists here in Concordia. And I think that we have such a large turnout. I would like to think it's about Mary and I, but I think it's about something deeper than that. I think that you've developed a sort of interest in public affairs and interest in what's going on in the country that's really sort of exemplified by the number of people that come out. So I think both of us were talking in how impressed we are by the level of interest that we find here, and generally the general sort of courtesy and the way that people sort of treat each other here. You're in a remarkable corner of the world here, and I hope that you realize how much it is, and this is a remarkable institution, and we're very proud to be here and to be part of this and observe the excellent part of your culture. Like I say, I know that you're here not primarily because you want to see us, but primarily because you really care about your country, and you hope that we were able to give you an insight into it. I hope we were able to do that in some course tonight. That was what we wanted to do. A lot of
people that were chronicled in the book that are here tonight that we're not going to have a chance to introduce, but I recognize this gentleman that's at the mic over here is Lee Biber, whose parents were Norwegian immigrants. He was born in Chicago, was a very successful businessman in the bioscience area, and worked at oil companies in Norway and has done it all, and now is running for political office, did last cycle and is again, and just because he wants to give back to this country. A question for James and Mary?
Yes, thank you. First of all, this is probably the only town I can say I don't have an accent. There's a lot of Norwegians up here. Anyway, my question is this. If We can go back in time and bring back a statement from a long time ago, Thomas Jefferson. When he talked about good government, he said limited government is good government. So when we look at where we are today, and we asked Jefferson, give your assessment of our current nation, would he say to President Obama, you're right on track, continue to enlarge government as you are doing, or would he say that both parties for 100 years gradually have been departing from the original American brilliancy and say, and challenge us, it's time we come back to the American basic of entrepreneurship, local decision, hardworking people, saying to ourselves, we will do it ourselves to make America strong again.
I'll vote
Which way
for
will
you.
go?
I think that's the first rule of a politician: never pass up an opportunity to give a speech. Actually, if you study American history, our present Constitution was a result because we had a weak national government. This was a response. The current Constitution was a definite response to the Article of Confederation, which was to actually strengthen the national government, to have a sort of more of a national purpose. It's very valid to say that there's a distrust of anything too big in this country. In some of the points there, but understand that we live under a constitution that was enacted with the specific intent to strengthen our national government. And sometimes we tend to lose that in the debate.
But not for the purposes of usurping state and local. But here is the essential thing. You're quoting Jefferson, and Madison said, because the way this argument gets framed today is that if you're not for this kind of government, you're anti-government. No, of course not. As Madison said, if men were angels, we wouldn't need government. We do need government. You need, to protect liberty, you need order, you need rule of law. What our founders understood above and beyond documents and constitutions and bills of rights, what they were concerned about as a representative republic, we're not a democracy, but they were afraid to have self-representation unless there was concomitant virtue, that we were virtuous enough and that we would be informed enough. That's why they were supporting public education. Without an informed public and without a virtuous, in all the things that virtuous implies, democracies or representative republics cannot exist. So those are you are going to echo what James said, you're in the epicenter of virtue and being highly informed about it. And that's where leadership comes from, that's where the future is going to come from. So there's one thing I wanted to say to young people that are in this really wonderful situation here at Concordia is, don't frame the debates the way you're hearing us. I don't mean us per se. I hope we try to have a little conversation here. But when you turn on TV, whatever channel is, ask the questions and frame the questions in your own mind. When I say, James and I agree on this, the reason we're optimistic, even though we live in this wacky world, is because we work with young people. He teaches at Tulane. I'm involved with Loyola. We see what young people are doing. They're just leapfrogging over us. And they're practical idealists, if that makes sense. You really are you're way ahead of the game here, because that is the culture and the mission of Concordia.
And I'm going to give you an entire commencement speech.
Entire commencement speech.
Everybody just, Clarence Darrow, they tried to get him to be the commencement speaker in Princeton. They just never got him. Finally, they got the brother man, and they were excited. It was a stunning May Day in New Jersey. And everybody was there, the graduates were all assembled with parents, right? And they gave Darrow this introduction, and they called him to the microphone, whatever they had back then, podium, and he yelled at the top of his voice, "Think!" He sat down.
First of all, I can't thank these two enough, so here's how I'm going to thank them. James Carville is the owner of one share of stock of Continental Resources. Mary Matalin, one share of stock Continental Resources. There you go. That right there will, trust me.
Let's get a couple of splits going here, right?
Trust me, this is where Dr. Green should come up. I'll be signing books back there after. God bless you all. Thank you for coming to